when the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality. Open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with your friends, so join the book club by DLC.
Went with a little funky chicken there to, just to mess things up a little bit. Welcome to the DLC Book Club. I'm Jeff Kanata. I'm joined by Lana Bashinsky. Hello, Lana.
Hello, good morning. I love the thought that you're, like, before the show, you're talking about, like, what dance moves you're going to rip out for the intro. This is going to become a bigger and bigger production before it's like a full-on stage production at the very beginning of every episode.
Oh, we need backup dancers.
Backup dancers.
Well, the folks at home are our backup dancers. That's what we know. Everybody's bopping along in their seat, ready to talk about some books. We should note, you've probably noticed already, Lana is remote. She is away from home on a work trip, and so her audio is going to be a little bit less than ideal, but I'm sure you'll be able to understand her and hang out with us. It's more important that we talk about these chapters, because we are doing chapters 14 and 15 of Memories of Ice. This is the beginning of book, I want to say book 3 of novel 3. Book 3 is called Capustan, of novel 3, Memories of Ice of the Malazan Books of the Fallen. We got a lot to dig into this week. I'm excited. How are you doing, Lana? How's your travels going?
My travels are going well. It is exhausting, but super fun and very weird. I'm back in LA for the week at a team event, a milestone end event, and it's actually more frequently than I would normally be at the office. And so people are like, "Oh, what are you doing here? I thought you moved." I'm like, "I definitely did." And they're like, "Why? Why are you here?" So it's been, just fun, but a lot of being around a lot of people.
Well, it's going to be nice to take a little sojourn into the world of Malazan and the world of reading. And we always start each episode with a non-spoiler topic before we get into the meat of the chapters that we're reading, so that if you're not reading along with us, you still have something to come and hang out and talk about with us each week. And we got, I think, a pretty fun question from the audience in our Discord. Always have the link to the Discord on the YouTube comments on the details section of our video, so you can always click on the Discord. But it's also 5x5 DLC on Discord. It's a great community of folks talking about video games and all sorts of other stuff. And we have the book club section, threads there, and threads for each of the novels that we've done so far. And Margo asked this question. Margo writes, a possible discussion topic for you. Do either of you ever own or want to own any books for their physical enjoyment? Or have you ever been interested in any special editions? For instance, someone in my comic book club had Chris Ware's Building Stories, which is like this big box of stuff. So I thought that was a great question. Lana, how do you feel about the physical element of owning books? Are you drawn to it? Do you look for cool special editions? What's your opinion there?
I really like this question because I feel like it's a world I'm just starting to really get into. I'm really recently starting to enjoy things for their physical editions. For a long time, I used to move very frequently. My living situation was such that I worked in order to get housing and food, but that meant they could just put me wherever they wanted. And so I was moving around constantly. And so the physical nature of things was only a burden because I was moving every 8 months and it was terrible. And honestly, even like through starting in my career, I was like, very weird about stuff. I don't want stuff because if I ever have to go anywhere, I had that mentality, and it really stayed with me for so long. And
you're like the De Niro character from Heat. You have to be able to walk away at any time if you hear the heat coming. You got to be able to walk away.
My hero, De Niro. It was actually getting a Kindle that started to changing my getting a Kindle and having like some life stability that gave me like makes me very excited to start like building not just my library, but in particular my library for the joy of the particular physicality of the thing. I always said that once I get a Kindle, that will be like my easiest place to like read lots of books. But my favorite books I want to buy physical editions of so that I have a beautiful bookshelf at home that is only filled with books that I can recommend. And those editions, oh, I want them to be the best ones. Like I know that I personally get really like like it really grinds me when I go to the bookstore and they've like released the cover of the book that has the actors from the movie edition. I'm like,
Yeah.
boo, they're not the book. Like, yeah, they play that character, but they're not the book character. They're specifically not the book character. They're the other show, the other media. Let them stay over there. And so,
Get off my Dune cover, Chalamet.
oh my God, that's exactly what was in my brain. That it was exactly the one that was sitting in my head. And like The Martian, the original cover is so beautiful. And I'm like,
Yeah.
ugh, like, you're really great, Matt Damon, but I don't like you that much.
Yeah.
Get off my lawn. Um, uh, and so I haven't bought that many books specifically for the physical editions of them, especially not like, I mean, I could rant for a long time, but I intend to. I'm
Yeah.
excited about doing it. What about you? I
I
mean,
have almost exactly the same answer. I moved enough times that all of the books that I had, I was like, this sucks. I hate putting books in giant boxes, and they're invariably the heaviest boxes in my move.
yeah.
And I don't want to do this anymore. And I got rid of so many books, and I regret it so much. I had when I was young. You don't know this, Lana, because you were probably not even born yet. You're so young.
I'm only 10.
Only 10. There was, the old like CD, you can give us a penny and we'll give you 12 CDs. All you have to do is sign up at 2 years of your life for a CD of the month club. Well, there was this sci-fi book club that I was a member of in my youth. And it was the same type of thing where like we pick a book every week or every month to send you, but also if you want to swap it out or select a book. And so I collected so many awesome hardcover editions. They were all hardcover, and they were hardcover editions of really cool books that I love. Stranger in a Strange Land and a bunch of Asimov stuff, and there was fantasy in there too. And I got all these really cool hardcover editions that I think were specific to they had whatever small run pressing of those novels were. I don't think they were like normal editions that they brought in. I think they were like, because they didn't look like any of the other editions that I'd seen. I don't know that for sure. Anyway, they were cool is my point. I thought they were cool, but I got rid of almost all of them in just the course of, I don't want to haul these from place to place in college, in post-college, and all the different apartments that I went to. Every time it would be like, I hate moving the box of books, and I'm not going to deal with that anymore. And now, like you, I completely regret it, and everything has been downsized, and now I feel like I've moved for, if not the last time, one of the last times, right? I've my family's moved here to Denver, where we have a home that I think is going to be our home for a long period of time. And now I'm like, now I do want that shelf that I see all the booktubers with their awesome shelf of cool hardback special editions. Very excited about the broken binding edition of the Malazan books that Mr. Erikson confirmed is happening in 2024. I'm going to scoop those up as fast as I possibly can.
I'm so torn because I want that, but I mentioned this to you, I think off the show itself, but I have a good friend whose partner owns bookstores in Vancouver.
Right.
And when I started doing the podcast, he was like, oh yeah, people come by all the time looking to get these older editions of those Malazan books. And he goes, yeah, so like because there's so many people who have that request on the list, he's like, I shared it out. I shared your podcast out with the bookstore Twitter accounts or whatever.
Nice.
And he goes, but I'm keeping like an eye out for it, and the next time one passes my way, I'll make sure that you get first dibs. So I'm like, do I slowly build up like the English editions, like the first editions, and
Yes, you
like
do, because those are worth money at this point.
I know I
Those are
want that.
awesome.
And so if I just buy the broken binding ones, do I want both?
Right.
Like that's where my like want of the physicalness, like the special editions of things. If I'm going to buy a special edition, that will be my only edition. I don't want multiples. I can't imagine being like, oh yeah, and here's my 5 copies of the same thing. I feel like that gets into the territory of like that's taking up space if I ever gotta move.
I feel that you like pick the one that you want.
Yes.
I like that. I have searched so many used bookstores around the Denver area looking for any Malazan stuff. I have not found anything. There's an amazing secondhand bookstore really close, walking distance from my house, called Second and Charles. That is awesome. It's like Costco size, but it's secondhand stuff. It's not just books, but it's mostly books. But they've also have toys and comics and like guitars and T-shirts and all kinds of crazy stuff. But they have a huge book section, and I have gone in there many times scouring for Malazan specifically. But like anything that I'm like, oh, now is the time to sort of rebuild that collection. Another one thing I want to bring up that I've been coveting, and I've like hovered over on Amazon many times, and I don't know why I haven't pulled the trigger because it's not that expensive. There's the 10th anniversary deluxe edition of Name of the Wind. Have you seen that?
I haven't.
It's so beautiful. You should check it out. I've already put up the cover for everyone else, but the cover is beautiful, but it also has that awesome, the thing they do on the end of all the pages so that when you look at all the pages together, it's red. It's like reflective, shiny red color. Oh, beautiful. It's so pretty. Yeah. So I've been coveting that, and probably will. It's $25 on Amazon. It's not like you breaking the bank, but it's.
But it's a duplicate. I assume you got the other ones. You gotta. Before we move on to talking about the book, that just a anecdote from work. I was talking about moving, like, oh, it's going to be such a hassle to move all of my bookshelves. I'm going to have probably 15 boxes of books, lots of books. And my buddy from work goes, oh, my move across country was also brutal. We had to get rid of 15 boxes of books. And I was like, you had to get rid of 15 boxes? And he goes, yeah, and we still moved 95.
Whoa.
95 Baller. Boxes of
books.
That's
a flex right there.
Whew. Yeah, it really shut me down. I was like, you know what? My move's fine. My move's it's good. It's easy.
You're like, I do a book club podcast. He's like, oh, yeah? Yeah? 90 boxes of books. You're like, I'll move over here now. Yeah. Well, anyway, we should get into talking about this book that we're talking about, Memories of Ice. So let's do it. Spoilers starting now for chapters 14 and 15, the first chapters of the third section of the book, the book 3, Capustan, which promises to be the big siege of Capustan, and we're right in it. First sequence of chapter 14, stuff is already kind of percolating. Gruntle, we're hanging out with Gruntle, who's just kind of drinking himself into oblivion in the bar. Buke comes in and is like, hey, let's do some stuff. Thank you for helping me not let, bad people murder people. He's like, hey, I've been working really hard, but the stuff's about to go down. Let's resist the Panian Doman. And Gruntle says, well, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to fight. And Buke's like, what's the alternative? You're going to eat people? And Gruntle's like, meat is meat, bro. Meat is meat.
Nah, it's not.
Not cool, Gruntle. Not cool. But I love how we start with Gruntle in this place of ambivalence, this place of really, I was convinced as a reader, like, maybe he is going to switch. I mean, we've already seen Perrin switch, or not Perrin, Talk talk switch sides. I'm like, anything's possible. Gruntle could do it.
The end of
so
this
I was
chapter is everybody like, yeah, we eat people now.
it's just the whole book just turns into like just a vote of confidence for cannibalism. Just like, let's all do it. It's like this book got really weird. Everybody's just pro capitalism or cannibalism.
Mr. Erikson, are you all right, sir?
Anyway, I was in that place of really buying it, and I think it's cool how Gruntle moves from this I don't care about anything to where he ends up by the end of these 2 chapters, as the champion of the people in a way. And we'll get to that, but I love how we start with him just in the depths of his mourning, but also his rejection of any kind of meaning in life. He's just like, what does it matter? Nothing matters. Nothing. Meat is meat. Who cares?
I think it's so interesting, and maybe I am like, my little goldfish brain is forgetting like key moments from previous chapters. But like Gruntle's been around, and we saw him get annihilated by the Kel Hunter, the Kachinchmale undead lizard knife guys. And we know that he's like protecting the wagon.
Yeah.
But we haven't like seen that much of him other than like this dialogue and like seeing him turn away, like his sense of ethics, or like being like, use creeps, Beauchelin. I'm not gonna hang out with you. Sorry. Like we've seen these glimpses of him, but at the beginning of this chapter, like his deep sadness and ambivalence towards what's happening, and then the reaction of the people around him being like, I can't believe this is like you. I'm like, well, we don't know him that well. I could believe it. I don't know Gruntle. But then through the chapter, it's like slowly revealed, like, you're the best fighter I've ever seen, Gruntle. And I'm like, is he?
Yeah.
We've only seen him get smoked. So
totally.
I agree with you that I really like sort of being able to see who Gruntle is.
Yeah, no, I agree. I had that revelation too. It's like, oh yeah, he was literally hired to protect people. So he's probably a badass, but we haven't seen any of his badassery until what's about to come. But yeah, but I like that we start in this place of him just being like, no, I don't care. What do I care? I'll eat people, not eat people. It's all the same to me. It doesn't matter. And I think it's a cool place to pull him from, right?
Yeah.
Then we move into some Idkovian scenes. Idkovian talks to Prince Jalarkin. I thought that scene was cool just because it shows what a D-bag Jalarkin is. And I think this is consistent with the themes of these novels as we've experienced them so far, where everybody who's in a position of actual authority is a loser. They're the bad guys, right? Is that anybody who thinks that they can command people but didn't earn it,
Mm-hmm.
And I think this seems to be a consistent position that Erikson takes, is that the folks, the boots on the ground, the people who are in it, who actually assume the mantle of leadership, are honorable, and the people who the politicians, the nobles, the princes of this universe are always the jerks, right?
Yeah.
Jerk Larkin, as I call him.
Really good.
Thank you.
Really good.
I just thought of that right in the moment. I didn't prep that at all. You'd be shocked to learn.
I like that. I think I forget if it was something that we mentioned last week, or maybe it was just floating around my head, but they even had it in like later in the chapter. They call out like, who better to lead people than somebody who doesn't want that responsibility. Like,
that was just in describing Whiskey Jack, right?
Yeah. But that like called out very explicitly, like that's sort of the stance. And then we show every instance in the book also where that hasn't happened.
Right.
And that person sucks.
Yeah. But it's cool. I thought that whole sequence was cool because Jalarkin's getting all ticked off. He's like, nobody's listening to me. He's like, well, why don't we just run forward? And he's like, that's how everyone dies. We thought about that. We considered that option. He's like, but yeah, we could just like run all the people. He goes,
you considered that option, but you didn't talk to me and see if I considered that option. And I'm like the prince.
That's how the people become food, bro. And then the scene also is, Kafal and Hetan, the Barghast, they're meditating, figuring some stuff out. And this is also the scene where we have Itkovian attempting his brilliant, super spy game of like, I'm gonna sleep with her and find out all the information. So, what do you know? And also, you look nice today. And she's like, come on, man, you gotta try better than that.
So
Notice your
transparent.
skirt.
You seem to be standing near me, and that's good.
If we were to go over there, would you tell me all the things that I want to know? Just completely awkward, the military man who's taken vows of chastity and is just like, I don't know how to do this. Very
was it
funny.
this chapter or the last chapter where somebody was like, bro, that's not like the vows that are put upon the military. Those are your weird rules.
No,
that
that's
you
right
made.
here. Yeah, that's right here.
Yeah.
When Carnatus is like, what are those vows? Because Fenner told you
Yes.
don't get funky with any ladies. And he's like, well, no. He's like, well, then, who are you exactly serving, bro?
It seemed like the right thing to do. I don't know. I
Yeah.
saw other priests doing it. I saw other
Yeah.
religious people. It's
Yeah,
so
he says, your vows were a dialogue with yourself, not with Fenner.
Yeah.
It's like you're just a masochist. And he says, maybe have you thought about this? If the gods want you to experience life and want to be one of their followers, maybe they want you to experience all the parts of life. Did you think about that? and Itkovian's like, stop talking, because like you're about to unleash all the,
like,
the
okay,
flood
take
of
it
carnal
easy there.
desire.
Yeah, good. Okay, chill out. Sorry, I didn't mean to open the floodgates. Maybe go stand over there and ponder what I said further near Hitan and not just deal something else. I love the idea that he would be like immediately unlocked, like any excuse to be like, you know what, you're right, I gotta go right now.
This has been a huge mistake. I've made a terrible mistake.
I have years to make up for.
Yeah. Very, very funny stuff. Then we're back with Gruntle, and he finds Buke. They meet up at this secret location. They find my buddy Buke there, and Buke is like, "There's, I've been preventing Corball Broach and Beauchelane from murdering people. It's going great."
I want to touch on this just because it was something I meant to go back and retouch on. He's like, I've been preventing them because we've been telling the townspeople to like keep an eye on their kids.
Yeah.
Like, is that how he's been preventing them? Or I couldn't quite see. He was like, I've been doing it because of, and then I felt like every time I read the sentences, the words turned into the Peanuts parents' voices. I've been preventing them by wah, 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 wah. And I'm like, what?
Honestly,
like
that
my
was
brain.
Listeners can correct us because maybe we missed it, but I was in that same boat. One of the criticisms I had of this chapter was I felt like that was a little bit of yada yada yada. It was a little vague. Buke's like, hey, thanks so much for helping me prevent them from murdering people. It's like, well, but how exactly did you do that? Because it feels like a very difficult task to stop these extraordinarily powerful necromancers from. And later on, we learned they got it. Like, you're not fooling anybody, which I thought was cool. But I felt like the specifics of how do you even stop someone from being Jack the Ripper without physically interceding, right? Like, I don't know.
Well, actually, now that we're sort of talking about it, I remember him being like, "Oh yeah, I watched them. We sure watched them, baby."
Yeah.
And maybe that was so vague because Erikson wanted the reveal of that Buke is a soul taken now, has a soul taken
Right.
form. So maybe the implication is that he was like turning into Falcon mode or Hawk mode or whatever.
Yeah.
But then
Sparrowhawk, I think it is.
Sparrowhawk, yeah. But then it sounded like the assumption is that they knew that he was watching them, but then when he went into Sparrowhawk mode, he like kept his distance, even though they already told him that they knew that he was watching them. I don't know. There's like some weird.
Yeah, I don't think it's specifically spelled out exactly the method he used, but um, interesting nonetheless. And then he tells Gruntle, like, hey, maybe you should go help Stani, because Stani literally volunteered to be at the worst place she could possibly be for safety. She wanted to be at the front line. She wanted to be where all the Panion are pouring into the city. She wanted to, step up and do her part, but that's not good. So Gruntle's like, I don't care. I still don't care about anything, but also maybe I'll walk the direction you told me Stani is in. Maybe I'll see her. But I don't care.
I don't care about anything, but I'm gonna make sure Stani doesn't die. But
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna look at anybody else. Everybody could be dying around me. I'll just yoink her out of there. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah. And he does. She shows up in a real bad shape. And I thought this stuff was handled so beautifully.
Yes.
So beautifully, because Erikson makes very clear what has happened to her.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't need to spell it out. Doesn't need to be graphic about it. But we understand from their interactions. We understand from how she's talking about herself. She's still strong. She's still herself, but like has clearly been violated in a very disturbing way.
Mm-hmm.
And Gruntle reacts to that. And just how that dynamic, and the fact that Erikson does it with such a light touch and almost respectful in how he explains this atrocity that has happened to her.
Yeah.
I really thought it was lovely.
I thought it was lovely, for all the reasons you said, for the relationship and the tenderness that is shown between Gruntle and Stani, and like how he cares for her in that moment. But also, again, something that I feel like reaches deeper to the heart of like extreme conflicts like that is just Stani saying, "I thought we were fighting.
Yeah.
Like I thought we were here to fight." Right. And everything that held within itself. It was so sad.
It's sad, it's harrowing.
Yeah.
But there's like a beauty to how it's expressed, I thought. Maybe that's an inappropriate word to use in this context, but I did think it was like the humanity at the heart of it that is revealed,
Yeah. And the vulnerability of them sharing that moment together.
Yeah.
And what it then like lights that fire within Gruntle. So he's like, he has this tenderness, he takes care of her, and then he's like, and I'm gonna go fight. Stay here as long as you need. And then what that spins into is just that the third party perspective of the rest of the army for Gruntle. Sorry to like spin into the next thing, but like that those specific cascade of events I think is such a successful moment. And specifically the third party, the
messenger.
We know that they're talking about Gruntle.
Yeah.
Well, we assume that he did at first because he comes to the front lines and they're like, get out of here, civilian. And then they're like, some civilian guy showed up and did all these things. I feel like it is a super, it's like something that I felt was happening a lot in the first book, but to a much lesser degree of success, where we have somebody who hasn't met Gruntle talking about Gruntle. We know it's Gruntle, but there's not confusion there of like, who are they talking about? Oh, they're talking about Kalam. I know that guy. Like we know who they're talking about, and so it becomes more powerful to hear from somebody else. Oh yeah, they're taking over. Not only did they like rush in, organize everybody, they completely pushed everybody back. They're 40 yards out of the thing, but nobody's going too far. This person is taking it all back, and apparently they're like, great, you're good. I'm going to the next total chaos festival at the next gate over. Good luck. They're taking over and being like, wow, Gruntle. Now it makes even more sense why you were so, it's so pathetic that you would be in that bar and like give up. And it's so great that you didn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. I agree 100% with all of that. And, having Buke be like, "Dude, get out there," and him like, "I don't care," and then
Mm,
faced with Stani and what happened to her, and her going what you said before, her saying to him, "You're the best fighter. What are you
mm,
even? Why? What are you doing in here? Don't be in here dabbing my forehead with a damp cloth. Get
mhm,
out there, do something." And that whole sequence where he's about to leave and he's like, "Don't worry, there'll be plenty more to kill. Like I'll do my
mhm,
best, but there'll be plenty more for you." And she's like, "I know it." Um,
mhm,
and then him, and like you said, it skips forward ahead a bit, but this is the second time in these 3 novels so far that they have elicited tears from me. I wept reading The Messenger's recounting of Gruntle. I mean, it made me well up with tears because it's so, and I'm just kind of reiterating what you said, but the way the messenger comes into Itkovian, burns on their face.
mm,
Carnatus is behind them, like, "Hey, I tried to heal this dude. He won't stop. He says he has to give you this report," and he apologizes for being late. Like,
ugh,
it's just so like honor, right? This duty, and that is one of the things I respond to very much in fiction. This notion of duty and honor, I find it very moving, and
mm,
Erikson, I think, expresses those particular notions so powerfully and so pointedly in his writing. And the way, like you said, we see the duty of it. We see the messenger's duty of, I need to tell you this because it's so important that my personal safety, my well-being is secondary, which is already like, I'm moved by that.
mhm,
But then, like you said, the third person, third party description of this man who is a foreigner, doesn't even live here, has no vested interest, rallied these troops. Well, how did he get them to fight? He showed them a half-eaten child and said, "Don't let this happen to your kids." And then took the tunic off of the dead kid and put it on a flagpole. I mean, I'm like getting, whew, as a father, I'm just like, Jesus. Um, it's so powerful. It's so powerful. And like you said, we've been in Gruntle's POV over and over and over again. We could have experienced all of that stuff from his POV, and it undoubtedly would have been powerful from his POV, right? There's
mhm,
no doubt that it would have landed, in expressed that way too. But there's something about someone else conveying this and recognizing the importance of it
mhm,
and the gravity of what he did. Like, that is just, it walloped me, man.
mhm.
It's good
I'm like,
stuff.
I like don't know what to say. I'm like just so chills, just sitting in. It's moments like this that I'm so happy we're doing this book club.
Yeah,
Like
me
I could be
too.
reading this book and I would be like, wow, that was a great scene, and I would keep it would like sit with me, but then I'd be like, what a time, and I'd move on. And I love being able to. Sorry, just like a quick
Yeah.
aside. Thank you for sharing these books with me. I love it.
Oh, I mean, thank you. It's wonderful. And the writing is so good, and it's so, like I said, so moving and so powerful. And you really see this transformation of Gruntle from, this kind of, and I love, again, we're skipping around a lot, but
Yeah.
I love how Carnitas is like, "Oh, that's the dude that I tried to heal. Oh, was he injured? No, no, no. I was just like clearing up his hangover."
Yeah.
It's like, I love how you go to like the magical healer to be like, "I drank too much last night.
Yeah.
Really, really tied one on. Can you like get with the magic and get rid of it, please?" um,
Ah,
but yeah, there's
a
all this
better
stuff.
world.
Yeah, right. There's all this stuff too about, him fighting with the dual swords, like the two
Mhm.
tusks, and he's like, "No, they're not tusks, they're tiger claws," and that really rattles at Covian, right? Because it's
Yeah.
not Fenner who's the something of
The
summer. What is it?
the
The
boar.
Yeah, well,
The boar
Fenrir's the boar,
tusks.
right? But they're both trying to be the something of summer, right?
Well, there's a tiger, so it's
The tiger of
there's
summer and the boar of summer. But aren't they supposed to be? They're both vying for who's going to be the god in that role.
the summer god.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
I think you're right that there's like a specific like role insert role
Yes,
here of summer, but in my brain it's just one of the two animals, and then they're like they can't have two summer
I think
ones.
there is my reading of it is that there is this sort of competition's the wrong word, but like it's either the tiger or the boar, and there's
Yeah,
people in either camp, and I think my sense of it is that's what rattles at Kovian is that he's like, oh, so I guess the tiger is ascending and the boar is receding
yeah.
here in
I
in
think
in relevance or in power or something.
yeah, I think that's I like those kind of moments because it's something that we see through book 2, and we see a lot of Fenner because of Heberick, and we see like, oh, they've like actually pulled Fenner out of the god zone. Is his warren. They've pulled him out. I assume that all these moments are kind of tied. I'm constantly thinking back to book 2 to see like where the timelines sort of are, if there's like
Yeah,
distinct um like landmarks. I mean, the ones that I keep bringing up, when's Quickman gonna be in trouble, like
right.
those things to try and place it in the timeline.
And there's lots of
um
Fenner stuff in Deadhouse Gates, right? Because Heboric is
yes.
constantly, trying to reject Fenner,
Hmm.
reconnecting with Fenner. So that, yeah, clearly that's relevant.
But then now seeing like the implications of that, of like the tiger of summer has like died, but did he? Oh,
Yeah,
and like
right.
what does that mean? And seeing him being brought up as like, no, they're tiger claws, and it's like I like that there's like an intrinsic vibe, like you can feel it when things shift, and nobody's like, oh yeah, we have to put out the missive so everybody knows the tiger's the cool thing now. People just feel it, they sense it. It's
Mm,
like a part of them and a part of the world energies
yeah,
in such a way that, like, why did Gruntle say that? No, they're tiger claws. Was it because Gruntle was like, I'm choosing the tiger of summer to say
right,
my cool thing, or was it just something that came to him because of the energies? I don't know. There's
right.
like an interesting magics at play in how these things are dispersed.
And isn't it true that Treach, the tiger, is supposed to be dead? And people thought it was
Yes.
dead? Yeah. So that's, I
Well, they
think,
said it's
relevant.
dead, but then they said something about it being like uh like still running, or still there's like still it had moved on. It was something
Yeah.
about like Talk and like the connection that Talk had versus I don't know. There was an implication. I can't remember the exact sentence that said something that hinted that he wasn't, but I don't
Yeah.
remember what the sentence was. I just know the feeling, the
I think that's one of the
vibes.
cool things about this universe and the god system, the pantheon of gods, and this it seems to be very fluid, and there's always gods rising in ascendancy, and there's gods that are kind of moving out or dying off, and I think that's very interesting. It's more dynamic than I usually sense that sort of the deities in a fantasy world are portrayed.
Yes, and like specifically the mortal connection in that,
Yeah,
like, not only are the gods very connected and meddling like in an interesting way, but that mortals can be like, well, I want to be a god. And it seems like there are
yeah,
paths for somebody to push forward who's hungry enough, who's bloodthirsty enough, who is unscrupulous enough to push their way there. It's
yeah.
interesting, the sort of paths between godhood and not godhood,
To that
the
end,
gradient.
to
Yeah.
that end, one of the scenes we skipped over here is, I thought, a very interesting scene where we see this masked figure, or not masked, hooded figure, enter the masked council. Carnita's following
Oh
them, going,
yeah.
"Who is this? Who is this?" Turns out it's Caruli, who's like, "Guess what? Not only did I buy a house up in here, I'm part of the masked council." Meh, meh, meh,
Woo!
meh. And says, "I'm going to be Wrath Cruel," and they're like, "But Cruel's the Cruel's not around anymore." He's like,
They're
"Cruel's
like
back.
they go, who?
Guess who's back? Cruel is back."
Hmm.
So I thought that was very interesting that he's like, I'm ascending as, I'm becoming the priest of Cruel because Cruel is back. Also, one of you MFers is a traitor. And, and they're like, oh, whoa, who?
The Fenner guy's like, who? Yeah, who, guys? He's wearing that hot dog suit. One of us.
Who could it possibly be?
It could have been any one of us.
Totally. Total hot dog suit. Lots of description of Itkovian standing, sort of directing the armies and the defense of the city from this position of, lookout on top of the tower as balls of ordnance are being catapulted, fiery balls of death are hitting the walls everywhere around him. I thought that was so epic and so visual,
It felt so epic and visual and like so hopeless. He's like standing there. Like, it's so cinematic in my head of him like trying to observe what's happening at one gate while like giant fireballs like crashing buildings, like just destroying the center of the city. And he's like, they need some support over here. Another fireball goes by. Like, how are you fighting that? Why are you standing there? Go somewhere where you're not like sidestepping boulders. It's like,
he says he's like, I'm probably gonna have to leave at some point.
Yes. But here I can
really.
It's got the best view. So
like they keep missing me, but they're gonna dial it in at some point. The other thing that happened in that Karuli sequence that I thought was interesting was right at the end of it. He says, "Oh, by the way, don't break Kafal out of his meditation if you value your lives," which at first I didn't really understand. I thought it was more ominous, but I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's because he's meditating and like creating a magical shield around the thrall, like mass council chamber, right?
Yeah.
Not to protect them, but to protect the bones, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought everything in this mass council chamber, I think, is so interesting because the way we meet the mass council in the first place or hear of them is like at Covey and them being like, ugh, yeah, well, eventually we'll have to talk to the mass council because they're the bosses or whatever. And then we meet them and they're this council of priests for all the different gods who are like, what bones? Oh, these bones? Yes, you can have those bones. Like, they just seem like shady. Like, obviously they're like
shady.
Power, but like,
yeah,
they don't seem like worth anything. But the thing that actually strikes me about Karuli being like, I'm here now, I'm on the council. I'm like, you had already started being like, I'm worshiping Cruel. Cruel's a good dude. Does his name sound like Cruel? Yes, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
If you were in another town, would you have still? Was it just like the happenstance of you like, wait, there's a mass council with all the gods? Oh, I can do that. I'll just do that. Is it just that he was there, or is this mass council like worth more than?
I think
seems that they are because
I think
they
he's
seem
planning
like
and scheming. I think he's plotting and scheming up in here. I think
but that makes me think the mass council is much more than just like politicized different religions of like these like. I got the vibes that they were like the nobles in the second book, where they're just kind of annoying and terrible and like have their demands about their lives that are worse as you're saving them. But now the fact that he's trying to like get in there and he's like, oh, betrayal is going to happen. I'm like, oh, I guess they matter.
No,
in a way.
I agree with you. I had kind of that same journey because they do feel like these frivolous kind of you're just pretending to be in power when Itkovian, Carnatus, and those Brucalian are all really making all the important decisions, and you're just the a-holes that we have to listen to. But I think there is a significance of the fact that they are aligned with specific gods, and they are sort of the mortal. I don't know, represented. They're priests, right?
Presence?
They're So I think that there's some correlation between the fact that they are able to exist as a representative of that god and that god's relevance, power, whatever.
Mm.
Like, I think there's some correlation there that makes him ascending to the council mean that Cruel is, back or, irrelevant
Back again.
Even though we know that Cruel is bleeding and having problems, like I think there's some importance to that symbolic connection. I think is more than just symbolic.
Yes, I think that, like, the thing that just struck me about it is, like, I guess the rest of the continent, like, the mass council must be like a thing
Right.
that was sought out versus it felt like happenstance, obviously,
Right.
of them being there. Like, in whatever city, I'm wondering if, like, whatever city they were in, if Karuli would have been like, "Oh, what's the priest scene like? Let me get in there." Or if, like, that's why Capustan's the hub, is because this thing is there.
Yeah.
I'm talking in circles here, but you get it. It's
Yeah.
interesting. I'm excited to see
Right.
why they matter and are not just politicized religious figures.
I think, first of all, Karuli has always felt a little sketchy, but I kind of
Yeah.
like him right now. And I think whatever he's up to is going to play a larger role. And I think it's going to end up being kind of cool that he did all this. Like, I mean, from the very beginning chapter of this novel, he was in a caravan heading here, right? Like, that's, he hired folks to go this way. Like, I think this was a master plan that is coming to fruition.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see.
Do you think that he decided to be like, Cruel's my guy because his name and my name are kind of close?
Karuli.
He's Cruel and I'm Karuli. The cute Cruel.
That's like the same reason that I worship the god Jeffy.
Exactly.
That's terrible. All right. Bad things are happening in Capustan. Massive, the Gruntel's fighting with his ragtag group. He's literally knocking on doors and pulling people out of their homes to join his group. But then, Ikovian is, hears from the messenger, as we already outlined, and it's like, I got to meet this dude. I gotta see who this guy is. And pretends to be a messenger, goes to meet up with Gruntel, says, what do you need? What can I do? What can I get you? What have you got? I thought that was pretty cool, that how that all played out. And Ikovian, that's when Ikovian is like, man, this dude, he fights like a big cat. He's awesome and amazing, but also, what does that mean about Fenner? And then we have a scene that I thought was incredible with Buke going to the necromancer's house, the estate that they've basically squatting on, not paying taxes. He's like, hey, I came back. Good news, bad news. Bad news is they still say you owe property tax. The good news is there's a bunch of cannibals attacking the city, and people think that's pretty low priority right now.
Nobody's really out looking to collect on coin.
Yeah, so
yeah.
And all the way this all plays out, he's standing out in the front yard. That weird dude who gets named Marble, who comes out and is like, I'm so mad. It's like, we specifically name him, we describe him. I'm like, is this guy going to come back later? Is this important?
Well, I thought Marble, who was the guy? I'm positive I'm getting this wrong now. Nothing has been more clear to me that I don't remember. I have not retained details from the previous book. Who was the guy who was traveling with the other girl through the Warrens hunting?
Oh yeah, no, that's not Marble. That's that's the guy the one that wanted to kill Kalam.
Yes.
The claw guy. I don't think that's this dude. I can't remember his name, but yeah, it's not this.
It's something like Marble.
You're right. It is a simple one-word thing, but I can't remember what it is. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. This guy stumbles out. It's like, I'll get you guys. But more importantly, we see that they have been doing icky, nasty things. kind of assembling an undead army. They've got zombies. They animate these dead soldiers to be their personal guard of their mansion. And it sounds like Korbal is knitting together hearts into a big. I mean, he's just a romantic. He's like, I'm
Stealing
going to give a
everyone's
heart
hearts.
ball to my Valentine's Day lady. My
I
Valentine.
also like. I mean, this is the scene where they were like, "Yeah, we know you're doing that. You think that we need to like slaughter people openly in order to steal their organs? We don't." And
Yeah.
they're like, "Well, then what do you do?" And they're like, "That's for us to know." Anyway, here's your zombies.
Yeah. Tell your zombies where they should go to
Guard
defend
the
us.
house. We got to go do an errand, but we'll be
I
back.
love how he goes, isn't it great? These are guards that never get tired. Up top for zombies.
And they assign it to the other guy, Reese, right? And Reese is just like, oh god.
The best part is
Reese has just been through so much. He's just like, this is my life.
He comes running out and he like reaches down the shirt of a zombie and he's like, there's no heart here. No. I saw the table of hearts. Heart table. Put on your heart ball.
And didn't they describe it as like it was still like pumping? Like it was like moving around on the table? Why? What a nasty little guy.
I love it though. I've never heard anyone describe necromancy as just stitching together multiple hearts. This is so foul. It's such a powerful image.
He's got real Sid from Toy Story 1 energy.
It's an indictment of Sid, if I've ever heard one. But Buke drank the mashed up clay figurine and now has soul taken powers. Has got soul taken powers. And they kind of know, right? It seems that Beauchelin is like, don't follow. We hate when we have soul taken. We don't want any soul taken buddies. We're full up on soul taken buddies.
Yeah.
Don't follow us. But also, caw. And it's interesting that they're like completely on to Buke. They say, hey, we know you prevented us from murdering people. We didn't need to. We figured out a way around that. No problem. We got plenty of hearts for the heart ball. And and also we know you're soul taken. Like, don't follow us. But also, we won't look behind us when we fly away.
Yeah. We assume you'll listen. Goodbye.
Yeah. He turns into, I said Sparrowhawk, but I feel like that's wrong. No, it is Sparrowhawk.
No, it is Sparrowhawk.
Yeah. Turns into a Sparrowhawk. And they're like, the other super creepy thing is they want to meet up with the child of the dead seed, an Aster. And he's like, we're going to learn so much when we chop that body up and look inside it. It's gonna be so fascinating.
I bet it's the biggest heart in the heart ball.
It's gonna really tie the whole heart ball together. It's really gonna be
really complete the look.
Yeah.
But they go to try and get close to them, and then it's just like they get fired magics at it. Like I forget.
But yeah, that shows you how powerful an Aster is, because they go and the way this all plays out was just delicious to me. Mm-hmm. Wrong word, necromancy, heart ball, wrong word, but still, I enjoyed it. He's like, don't follow us, go, fly up, check out the thing. He's like, Sparrowhawk, checking it, watching you guys, and they shoot all their purple necromancer beams at an Aster. An Aster's like, get out of here with that. And not even a scratch on him, but they get counterattacked, have to retreat. He come back, dude's cloak is on fire. He's like stamping it out. He's like, Buke's like, ha ha, you. He's like Nelson from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, good day to you, sir. And then the dude's just stamping his cloak. I love that sentence of him. He stamped it like longer than he needed to. It's just like rage,
like a fit of rage. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, guess that didn't work out. And he's like, well, we're gonna have to just try a new tact. We're gonna have to change our approach.
And I just love that Buke has like the faster bird form, so he can like fly out there, watch them get eviscerated, and be like, and then still scoot back and be like, "Oh, I've been here the whole time. How's your what's this situation? I have no idea."
Yeah. That was amazing.
I was with Reese. We were moving the guards.
Yeah. He's like, you literally haven't left from this spot? Nope. No, I have not. Definitely not. Standing right here the entire time. But yeah, that scene was creepy and awesome and shows you the power of a Naster, like that dynamic, because we know how powerful the necromancers are, but also Buke's plan of using them as, let's keep them on our side because they're going to fight the people that are fighting us, enemy of my enemy type situation, which, seems to be working out well. But the reason that they want to fight him is we want to find out what makes him tick so we can get in on that. We want to get in on some of that first Child of the Dead Seed action.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Creeps. Nasty guys. Nasty guys being nasty.
Yes. All right. So that's basically how the chapter ends, is Buke laughing at Beauchelin and Corball Brooch. And then we're into chapter 15, which starts with Whiskey Jack coming up to this graveyard, basically, not a graveyard, but the bones of a bunch of the Kachin Shamal Kel hunters, and seeing that they've been completely torn apart by the wolves, the Talan Eye.
Mm-hmm. Well, he was learning of the Talan Eye in that moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Silver Fox shows up and is like, to me, and summons all of them. She's like, these are my dogs, dog. These are all my dogs, dog.
He's like, it seems like these might have been torn apart by undead wolves. She's like, these undead wolves? Yeah.
Yeah, they're my personal protectors. And Corlat's like, you want to send some of your personal protectors over to your mom, who's literally dying and wants to see you? Like, have you called your mom? Have you called your mom? Like, did you even know it was Mother's Day? Did you even know? Have you forgotten? When's the last time you called your mom? And she's like, my mom's scared of doggies. I can't send my sick doggy protectors over to my mom because she's allergic. She can't. I can't.
I'm not. Mom and I are fighting, but I know she hates dogs. I would never send a dog to my mom.
Yeah. Whiskey Jack is like, oh man, this is not good. She's barely Tattersail, even though she looks like Tattersail. She's not acting like Tattersail. He's like, is Night Chill up in there with some not so nice things? Was Calor right that we should have snuffed her out when she was a wee girl instead of growing up so fast? They grow up so fast these days.
Isn't it in the scene that Whiskey Jack is like, this is dangerous, but also she's looking pretty hot.
Yeah,
and then he looks over at Corlap. He's like, we're not that hot.
Not as hot as my girl.
Damn, that's a woman.
Yeah. Yes. We get
I was like, what a weird aside of Whiskey Jack's just inner monologue. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. She may have died, been reborn as a little baby with 3 souls, and grown up faster than is natural, but she still got it.
She still got it.
Yeah. There's a lot of information here about the Kachin Shamale, the Talanamas, and the Jagat. I think it kind of all comes together, like the hierarchy there. Who hates who? There was literally a sentence of one is to the other as the other is to the other. It really galvanized how that all works in my head. That The Jagat, yes. The Telenomas, yes. Have they tried to extinguish all of the Jagat? Yes. Was it for good reason? At one point. The reason kind of changed over time. They were allied with some of the Jagat for a while, and they were like, let's just focus on the Jagat tyrants who are very, very bad people. Good Jagat are cool. And then at a certain point, they're like, nah, all Jagat are bad. Let's just murder everyone. Because what if they have like a baby and that baby turns into a tyrant? It could be good now, but like, well, let's just murder all of them.
And like, well, I'm pretty sure all of them have the complex because it's like that it was the trauma put upon them that then they put upon somebody else. It was generational trauma.
Right.
Because it could change. How are we saying it? Could change Jamal? Could change Chamale?
I don't know.
Chain folks. They were like to the nth degree what the Jaghat tyrants were. Like,
right.
Way worse, way more vicious, way more violent, way more horrible for everybody around them.
Yes.
And so, like, the train of being like, oh, we got to eradicate this badness. Wait, there's more badness, even badder than the badness. Well, we're going to help stop that too.
Let's go up the ka-chain.
Ka-chain.
This could be completely wrong, but here's how I started imagining it during this sequence. Because we know the Ka-chain Chamali, the Kel hunters, we know they're basically like hyper intelligent reptiles. They're basically like dinosaurs with swords. Yeah, reptoids. Thank you. The scientific term. They have knivoids on their handoids, and they look like, in my head, they look like velociraptors with wielding swords and wearing,
yes, me too.
Wearing armor. And we know that here we learned that there was an offshoot called the short tails that standed even more upright. And so I started conceptualizing this as, you can correct me if this is wildly off base, but I started conceptualizing this as like, what if they were like the first species? They're one of the original species on this landmass, right? On this continent, on this planet. I feel like it's, what if dinosaurs didn't have an extinction event and just continued evolving into sentient creatures? I feel like they became this super warlike race of evolved dinosaurs. And then the first, the first humanoids, the first sort of, precursors to man, the Cro-Magnon analogs, had a problem with that. They're like, oh, it's terrible to have hyper intelligent dinosaurs hanging around. They're oppressing us, and they fought back. I don't know. That may be trying to fit it into Earth, our own thing too much, but like that's kind of how it galvanized in my head around that.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't think I was too focused on like trying to understand the lineage, because they were saying like we have the upright ones, they matrilineal, like they like queen bees, so they have like the female of them, and I interpreted that more upright one was like that was the female one. I think you're actually right in that they were like evolving into something that was more and more human like. And then the other thing that struck me is that they were like, yeah, they've got the female one, and then they have these other ones that somehow had the blades gilded to their bones.
Yeah.
And it made it seem like the ones that we've been witnessing, other than the fact that they're undead, are also unnatural as compared to the natural sort of evolution ones that existed. And that was sort of the pieces I was pulling away from it. But I like your take.
Well, no, I think you're absolutely spot on in that they sort of these hyper specialized society or species that we have these Kel hunters, which is why they have the designation of being hunters, is because they literally have given up their hands or whatever they've got, claws, whatever it is. They've given up an appendage to just be there to be a warrior, right? They've now got swords for hands, so they have one function, and they have these hyper specialized, offshoots of their species, which I thought was pretty interesting. And yes, this matron thing, the queen, the queen bee, who, there's lots of discussion about how, is she being manipulated as well? Are the Kachain Shimale, are they being manipulated by some force, which I think we are led to believe is the crippled god? But that she tried to bring order to the rent in Morn a second time, even though that caused so much damage hundreds of thousands of years ago when it was attempted. Like, why would she attempt that again? Is the question, right? Interesting stuff. And I do think it's not as I think not as confusing as it has been, or not confusing is the wrong word, but not as nebulous as it has been. It feels very clear to me what's going on in the hierarchy of how all these different elder races, relate to one another.
This whole scene, it sort of was like a back-to-back of scenes that was by people sort of ebbing and flowing in and out of, like, literally like walking up and talking, and then they'd leave and other people would walk up. Of them in the pile of bones, and Silver Fox explaining things, and then, hey, there's people coming over the cliff. What are you going to let them see? And she's like, not these doggies. And then they fade away to dust, and then they walk up and meet them and have a separate, or I think Whiskey Jack walks over first and has a conversation with Callowar and crew, and then Callowar talks about
he kind of reveals all that stuff we just talked about. Yeah, he's the one who's like, let me give you a history lesson because I've been around. Yeah.
And then as he's talking, then Silver Fox walks up, and then there's like the tensions of like their conversation and their dislike of each other. They start being like, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? Is there like another, like there's another enemy? Is this the scene that I'm thinking of?
Yes, I think that and we skipping ahead, the scene between Whiskey Jack and Dujek, where he's like, we're just these mortal dudes who are trying to fight a cannibal army. Now we got to deal with the crippled god. What are we supposed to do?
Well, is that
they're realizing that is the cannibal army really working for we're not at that scale. We can't fight that kind of fight.
Yes. Yeah. Does that happen? Like, because like all of the scene, like ending in, Krupp's, the confrontation with Brood.
Yeah.
Does the scene with Dujek and
it happens
and
after that.
Jack happen after that?
Yes.
Yeah. So in this scene, they're like on the mountaintop, and they're like, "What? There's another enemy?" And then Krupp's like, "There, it's fine. It's fine.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Me,
Krupp, me, like." Like the way he always describes himself is like a humble Krupp is here to do these things and is humbly, secretly very powerful in a way, and all of you kind of know but don't really know. And I'm just, you don't have to think about it. Don't worry your pretty little heads. Focus on the cannibals, and everything's fine. And then Brood's like, you better start talking now, or I'm like, that's it for you. Sorry, man. I can't deal with your everything for 1 second longer.
Your whole deal.
Like,
I can't handle your whole
it's
deal.
just that everything's, and like he starts like babbling, and then Brood, as he's like reaching for the hammer, I could feel myself like, oh yeah, baby. Woo, what is going to happen here? I was like so excited. And then Brood uses his hammer to like just squash Krupp, and it raises new mountains out of the earth and rends a like seemingly endless pit that everything that everyone's standing on, everything falls over. Everything is launched. People are sliding down away from the area which the hammer struck. Whiskey Jack is getting completely battered on the inside of his armor. It like the most extreme, like casual rage outburst from Brood creates a new mountain range. Like the scale of the force, like lending into the conversation of Dujek and Whiskey Jack being like, this is not our fight, methinks. But all of that, like the most extreme description, everybody's like, well, Krupp got his. That dude sucks. But then he's fine.
Yeah. That was Amazing.
Awesome.
So amazing. And how you see Whiskey Jack just completely like in this avalanche of like new
boulders.
Yes. New geometry in the world, like literally just moved mountains. And Krupp is just standing there on the tiny little unharmed island in this massive crevice that's been opened up. And we find out some interesting stuff about Krupp. Whiskey Jack is like, I don't know if Dujek, one of them says, I think he's the smartest mortal on Earth. Like full on Lex Luthor, right? His superpower is his brain. He's the smart. Yep. And he's been pulling the strings, manipulating all this stuff, working in concert with an elder god, which I think is cruel, right? And the whole point, he was intentionally provoking Brood to do exactly what he did, just to show everyone that Cruel is bleeding, that Burn is bleeding, that everything is bad. Which is just awesome. And I love how, Whiskey Jack is like, all of it. Oh, he's got that,
that's the red
beautiful mind.
Yarn.
The beautiful mind moment of like, it's all of it from back in Darujistan and everything,
I thought that was so interesting. Yet all of those pieces, the big crevice that Brood made filled up with blood. And it took me a moment to be like, they called it the secret hand of the crippled god, but I think that was just them learning that Burn was sick, which up until this point,
only
Quick was the only person who knew about it. But at first I was like, the secret hand of the crippled god, does that mean that Burn's working with them? And it's like, no, the secret hand is just that. It's not just the Warrens that are bad. The world is bad. Everything's bad.
Yeah.
This is the secret. I think secret hand was not like the secret hand of like action, but like the secret hand of like cards is what my brain sort of went to there. But seeing that revealed, and then how everybody was like, now there's the blood there. And Dujek and Whiskey Jack are like, what the heck? Everybody knows about this.
Yeah. It's literally like, we're the last people to know, as usual. And then Whiskey's like, well, in fairness, we did lie to everybody also about the whole being outlaws thing.
Yeah.
It's like, fair point.
Yeah. But you were going to go about Krupp, what we learned about Krupp.
Yeah, I think the fact that he is, everybody's kind of realizing he's this brilliant mastermind. I think Whiskey Jack for the first moment is like, we've been underestimating this guy. He's really behind everything. He's a key point. I'm actually going to start trusting what he has to say because he's the smartest dude and is clearly aligned with an elder god. Like, and that whole thing of why didn't he get hurt? He's just a mortal. It's like, well, some god stepped in and said, Brood's not going to hurt this guy
today.
Yeah. Lots of stuff with the Maybe as well, who has been dreaming and having a real hard time of things, getting real bitter about not getting.
Before we get to the Maybe stuff, there's one other or maybe this happens after, and I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine.
One other Corlat and Whiskey Jack sort of tender moment, about all these pieces, where they're kind of side-eyeing each other again. Oh no, this is after the Maybe.
It's after, but it's fine. Their relationship, I think, is lovely. Yeah.
Oh, it's so nice.
Yeah.
So, because it's sort of tying in with it's like a continuation of the scene of, everybody's line was everybody knew about Burn. We didn't know about Burn. Corlat has her scene with the Maybe, but then when she and Whiskey Jack talk to each other, they're like, what are you lying about? What are you lying about? Whiskey Jack's like, I got you a cloth for your bleeding face. And she's like, yeah, but what do you just weren't going to tell me about whatever? Yeah. He's like, I don't have any secrets, girl. And she's like, are you going to fix my face or not?
Yeah. It was great. Yeah. She's like, he's like, I don't have any secrets. She's like, okay. And he's like, yeah, those two soldiers that I had, stationed with them, haven't seen anything. So you didn't station them. They are you have secrets. He's like, no. I just had a conversation with them. It wasn't
if they
pre-planned.
happen to notice things, I didn't tell them to do it. They voluntarily knew what their job needed to be and are doing it, but
Yeah.
I didn't tell them explicitly to spy.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I jumped ahead.
No, that's fine. The maybe stuff is interesting to me because she seems to be percolating there. We keep checking in on her, and it doesn't feel like much is moving forward with her other than, she's getting this resentment to her daughter. And
Yeah,
these
and
dreams.
not dying.
Yes, and not dying. But there's something with Krupp where he keeps saying, there will be a revelation for you later. Not revelation is the wrong word, but there will be something with you later. You just have to go through this horrible stuff. You have to dream through it for a while. But I'm very curious because I feel like, I hate to say that she's used up her usefulness in the story, because that's literally what the maybe is. Like, he's this disposable thing that has one use and then we throw it away. But it does feel like, okay, well, why are we still hanging out with her? Why are we still checking in on her well-being? Why are we still in her POV? I think something is coming of her relevance to the story that we don't yet know.
Yeah, I think it's almost like we keep checking in on her to be like, so that there's a greater juxtaposition between what she is now and what she will become. Because like when we first are meeting her and chatting to her, when she seems more relevant, she's like this, and you learn like her life force is being sucked away by Silver Fox. She's like, I don't want to hate my daughter.
Yeah.
And there is sort of a that sense of duty that you're talking about, where like she's sort of resolved and seems very honorable, but seeing her turn into somebody whose like perspective is being twisted, or is it like we don't really understand the relationship between her and Silver Fox, and seeing her become sort of like more and more hateful and spiteful and mean, think it will just I'll be interested to be like, let's compare it with what she becomes, or like, does her having to come through this mean that she will then become another villain that will have to fight Silver Fox? It's like I just think it's trying to show us a before photo.
I do get the sense that Silver Fox cares for her on some level, but it is weird that she's not visiting her or seeing her. And by the end of this, what prompts her scratching Corlat's face is she becomes convinced that Silver Fox wants to kill her.
Yes.
Which is very dark. Like, I don't, it's going to be, that feels like a line that you don't come back from. That my daughter wants me dead and I'm going to scratch her face because she's actually going to kill me. She's like losing her grip on sanity in a sense,
because her dreams are so real and so frantic of her like running. And the most recent dream she had right before Corlat came in was her being surrounded by Talon A, basically, like these wolves. And then you have the moment where, at least as the reader, I was feeling suspicious of Silver Fox. Like, why wouldn't she send them for her protection? She's like, oh, Mom doesn't want them. And it's like, okay. But then you see Corlat sort of have that same.
Yeah, she didn't send them because you don't like doggies. She's like, I love doggies.
Well, she's like, you know what? I will tell you, because I think that Silver Fox should be visiting you. And like, she thinks she knows better their relationship, and then tells her about it and gets her face scratched off. And then she's like, oh, maybe that was the wrong call. Maybe I didn't really know what I was doing when I did that.
Yeah. That's a good point, that she recognizes it as a mistake in the moment of like, oh, I really ticked her off. That went a direction I didn't anticipate.
Yes. Yeah. I thought she would be like, oh, she thinks her daughter's taking care of her now.
Yeah. Then we have this really lovely scene with Krupp and the two Marines, the two guards that have volunteered to guard Silver Fox because they love Tattersail so much. I love how this scene plays out, where he's playing dumb and is like getting information from them or kind of subtly manipulating them, but doing it of like, oh, so you thought Whiskey Jack should be the new emperor, huh? That's weird. Okay, so what did you thought? You think that Tattersail should, like his dumb act gets them to reveal more and also sort of like influences their opinion about the situation. I thought that was really cool.
Well, I just liked it because all three of them are sort of playing dumb.
Yeah, right.
Like,
That's true.
so Krupp leaves, and they're like, I don't think he expected that conversation.
Yeah.
He showed up and he thinking he'd get like 2 brains to spar with, and he barely got 1 put
Yeah.
together. It's like,
No, you're right. That's so true. Yeah, they were also playing dumb. It's a very interesting scene. I loved how it played out.
And I just with the stuff that we've seen with like ingesting, I'm like, where did you get those cakes? The
Yeah.
chefs whipped up some cakes with syrup, like sweet stuff on like this. What? That seemed like so weird. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like are those god magic cakes? I just didn't understand exactly how they showed up, but also just him being like, oh, interesting. I have these there for both of you. Do you want them? Can you tell me about just before I hand them to you? What's your thoughts on? That was just it was cute and
Yeah, it was also funny how
suspicious.
the fact that they're like, we usually get these that they've already fallen in the dirt, and then she's like,
Yeah.
I miss the dirt and sticks on them. It tasted
Yeah,
better
it's
when we
not
had
quite
dirt
the
and sticks.
same. I like the sticks and earthy undertones.
The other fun, what's the word I'm looking for? Diversion. I don't know. That's not the word. Moment that I didn't point out from earlier. I just love that we take this detour into Pun Town for like half a page when I think Corrupt is like, I think that happens here. Anyway, he says something about like it's an amazing or a remarkable feat, and they're like, well, we never saw him without his boots on.
So
He's like, what?
stupid.
He's like, I guess if he pushed us in the back. Well, I guess if he did that, he would have remarkable feet. And he's like, no, FEAT. Come on.
Yeah, Krupp, you're getting out dumbed, my
So
guy.
funny. It's like half a page of a pun playing out. I'm like,
I was
yes!
even reading it, and it's funny to go sort of back and forth between like the perspectives of these characters and like who I feel like is the reader in each scene, and me be like, I felt like Krupp in that moment, like, what feet? I'm like, what's with his boots? And he's like, FEAT, and I'm like, oh. So stupid. It's so funny to like read through a verbal pun.
Yeah,
it's so confusing, and like it just is great. It was wonderful.
I love it. They're like doing a homonym in text form is not easy, but he pulls it off.
I haven't heard the word homonym since I was like 12.
And then we have another great scene with Murillo and Cole where they're like, she asleep? Yeah, she's asleep. Oh man, sucks to be her. You know what's awesome about me? I had a youth. I went to all these parties. I met all these girls. It was amazing being young. I'm not young anymore, but like she didn't get to be young. Wait, are you sure she's sleeping? Totally. But don't those bracelets glow when she's sleeping?
Get shinier.
Say what now?
yeah, they get shinier when she's sleeping, I'm pretty sure. And they're like, well, it looks pretty dull.
So she heard everything I said about how much her life sucks.
She's like, that's fine. You're the only one who's telling me the truth.
Such an awesome moment. He's like, oh, geez. Okay, she's asleep. Okay, we can finally talk about how her life we both
sucks.
agree her life sucks. I mean, I would never, ever tell this to her face, ever. But she's totally asleep, and we could just talk freely right here. That's so great. And then we have a little moment with Crone, our favorite giant raven, who's like, she checks out the blood and the fissure. Mm-hmm. And basically is, saying that the Amtos Falak Warren is the one being used. So it sounds like it's a Jagat that is the Panian Seer. But the Panian Seer is fighting a different battle down south, which I thought maybe, is that the fight? I don't know what that is. Do you know what that is?
I assumed that it was maybe like Lady Envy and crew.
Interesting. Right. Maybe. Okay. All right. Yeah. I did not make that connection, but maybe we'll find out more about what that is. But yeah. So the seer is clearly not human. We've already seen the seer is, animating a corpse. So that's, we know that. But Everybody else is figuring it out. And it feels like the siege of Capustan is far from over. Our heroic saviors are still weeks away. Whiskey Jack and crew and Dujek and all that. The armies are still weeks away.
Mhm.
But we're holding out thanks to Gruntle and the child's banner. What is it called? It's a great name for it. The child's
Yeah.
tartan? No, something else better than
It
that.
is something like that.
Yeah.
It's like a T.
Yeah.
Um,
I thought we're ramping up. I love how, we've seen a number of big battles in these novels so far, and he keeps finding new ways to
describe them.
New ways to let us. This one
To
felt
be
very much
immersed
more
in
like
them.
Yeah, this one was like from the commander's perspective of, sort of disconnected and the macro, the machinations of the armies.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool way to describe it.
Crazy high APM.
Yes, he's playing the RTS version. He does. He's he's like, I gotta build some barracks. I gotta really need some more troops
change
up
the
in
troop.
here.
Yeah, I gotta activate a heal.
I'm low on Vespine gas.
The one thing that I thought of in these chapters is at the end of the last podcast episode, Steven's comment on the YouTube was like, I think one of your last things that you said in the episode was, the next chapter is called Capustan, should be fun. And Steven's comment, I thought of Steven's comment being like, sure, fun.
Yeah, he said, let's check on that at a later date, shall we?
The Tenniscowry
Yeah.
biting through the flesh of the soldiers, that they are absolutely, like, they're not fighters. They are getting sliced down in droves, but there's so many of them just piling in, just with their hunger and like eating all the soldiers. And I was like, yeah, fun is maybe not the right word, but
Yeah, that's
certainly immersive and enjoyable.
Agreed 100%. Very enjoyable as a reader, not so much as a participant, I suppose. But yeah, we overlooked that part where when Corbel Broach and Bushelane in their soul taken forms, attacked. The Anastor was not injured at all, but a bunch of the Tenniscari surrounding him were killed. But all the other Tenniscari are like, soup's
Hungry.
on, dinner time, eating their own, like, so foul. And that, I think, is the looming threat that that is dangled here at the end of chapter 15, when Crone is like, oh, I still see 300,000 Tenniscowry who haven't even been unleashed yet. Like, we've had this sort of invading army. We've had the catapults of fire. We've had the armored, vanguard coming first. But what we don't have yet are the bloodthirsty cannibal hordes of just innumerable waves of death, like the overwhelming numbers that are about to be unleashed on us. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah. I also like ending the chapter with the crone being like, do you have any food? I'm hungry. And he's like, yeah, sure, it's in the garbage. And she's like, the garbage? She's like, you're a bird. What are we gonna pull it out of this? She's like, fine. I love Crone.
All right, so we have, I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning. I intended to mention this at the beginning, but I didn't. We have awesome suggestion from the audience in the Discord. Emage or Emage, Emage, suggested a template, a roadmap for our reading cadence throughout the rest of Memories of Ice. And it seems to have gotten consensus from the folks that advise us in these matters. So Emage is saying next week, 2 chapters, 16 and 17. Then the following episode, chapters 18, 19, and 20, 3 chapters. Then 20, 21, then 23, 24, and finally ending with 25 and the epilogue. So only 1 week of 3, which will be week after next. But next week, next episode, chapters 16 and 17 are the reading assignment. We appreciate all of the guidance from all of you out there. Thank you.
Yes,
We
thank
appreciate
you.
all of the interaction and all of the feedback, or as Lana prefers, feed forward.
I can't believe you would dare say that here.
You just sullied the book club. How dare you?
Disgusting.
We always end our discussion of the novels with some favorite sentences. Lana, do you have a sentence that you wanted to highlight from this section?
Yes, I have one. Well, I have two, but always being like, ugh, what's the one that I want to keep?
I can go mine
Okay.
with you if you are
I
need
got
a
it.
second. Oh, you got it. Okay, good.
This is Itkovian sort of after having his chat, where somebody's like, that's your call, man. That's not your.
Yeah.
Nobody put that on you. And perhaps that is the final, most devastating truth. The gods care nothing for ascetic impositions on mortal behavior, care nothing for rules of conduct, for the twisted morals of temple priests and monks. Perhaps indeed they laugh at the chains we wrap around ourselves, our endless, insatiable need to find flaws within the demands of life. Or perhaps they do not laugh, but rage at us. Perhaps our denial of life's celebration is our greatest insult to those whom we worship and serve.
I love that. I love that. That sequence. I mean, it really speaks to, I'm not a huge fan of organized religion myself. And I think it
Same
speaks
here.
to some of that. It's like, hey, maybe the gods are laughing at how you interpret what you think they want from you. Or maybe they're ticked off that you're not experiencing all there is to. There's this world that exists because of the gods. Why not experience all of it? Why aren't they mad that you're like, oh, no, I can't do that? That's such an awesome perspective. I love
Yes.
that sequence as well.
I
Mine is just a simple interaction. This is also, I believe, with Itkovian. I love when these little shorthand, little just interactions reveal so much about character. And this is with an unnamed, the Trimaster. When this other, we talked about the one messenger coming in, but there's a second messenger, this woman who comes in who has the wrong size helm on.
Oh yeah.
And the Trimaster says, here's the sequence. Careless, the Trimaster murmured, losing her helm. Indeed. Clever, finding another one. The shield anvil smiled. I shall take my leave now, sir. Finner go with you, Trimaster. Just that, like, she shouldn't have lost that one, but pretty cool that she found a new one, huh? Like,
Yeah, smart.
Just that little. I don't even know how to sum it up. It's beautiful, that characterization of them expressing their admiration for the plucky, can-do spirit of these foot soldiers.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and like just small moments, and it's like we learn something about that character that's just in the scene for a second. Unnamed character, like through talking about that, like their acknowledgement of that situation, just knowing more about that character that we'll never meet again. It's maybe we will.
Beautiful. And
yeah,
it reminds
awesome.
me of how I, talk about my kids sometimes. It's like, wow, they really shouldn't have done that. But their solution to that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have another one, or shall we move on?
We should move on.
Okay. We ended the show with recommendations, and luckily we've been getting awesome recommendations from you. You can always send us an email with your book recommendations, your suggestions for non-spoiler topics, any feedback that you have about the show. We love getting it. You can send it to dlcfeedback@gmail.com. That's our email address. You can also post it on our Discord. The link to the Discord is below. Or, if you're a patron of DLC, you can post it on the Patreon as well. Several ways to get a hold of us. But this was an email sent to us at dlcfeedback@gmail.com. It comes from Dan, from Seven Oaks, or maybe not from Seven Oaks. Maybe that's Dan's handle, Seven Oaks. I don't know. From the UK. Dan's from the UK. Dan says, Dan was responding to my comment, I think it was last week, about how much I love opening sentences in books, in chapters. You know, the way something kicks off. I just love noting the opening sentence of things. And Dan says, "Hi team, I love the show, and I wanted to share my favorite opening sentence from a book. It's from Transition by Ian Banks, or Ian M. Banks. He goes by both, or went by both, the late Ian Banks, who passed away. This sentence is from Transition. The opening sentence of the novel is, apparently, I am what is known as an unreliable narrator. Though, of course, if you believe everything you're told, you deserve whatever you get." It's a pretty baller opening sentence.
Great opening sentence.
Yeah. Dan goes on to say, an awesome start where you're already on the back foot of what this book will be about. Also, a special mention to Peter Kenny, who did a great job on the audiobook version of Transition by Ian M. Banks. Love listening and keep up the good work. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you. Have you ever read any Ian Banks? I've heard his work is very good. And again, he passed away back in 2013, I believe, from cancer, which is very tragic, but left quite a number of science fiction books and other novels as well. Have you ever read any of them?
I've not.
Neither have I. But it's a good recommendation for folks. This Transition. I had it up somewhere. I was going to read the. Oh, here it is. Here's the description from Goodreads of what Transition is about. I'll read it quickly. There is a world that hangs suspended between triumph and catastrophe, between the dismantling of the wall and the fall of the Twin Towers, frozen in the shadow of suicide terrorism and global financial collapse. Such a world requires a firm hand and a guiding light. But does it need the concern, an all-powerful organization with a malevolent presiding genius, pervasive influence, and numberless invisible operatives in possession of extraordinary powers? Sounds kind of cool. Sounds like it's got fantasy elements, but set in the real world in modern times, which I always enjoy. Mm-hmm. So there you go. Transition, a recommendation from Dan from the UK. It is by Ian M. Banks. All right. Like I said, we love getting your suggestions. Please keep them coming. Next week, we'll be doing 2 more chapters. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Let's dance it out.
When the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality, open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with the